Welcome to Leaders' Questions.
Taoiseach, Dublin city centre is no longer safe. That's a statement of reality. People who live, work and visit our capital city have been robbed of their sense of safety, and this has been the case for some time. Ask anybody who walks through the city centre and they'll tell you that they do so either with their head down or looking over their shoulder. Those who live in the inner city could write the book on just how unsafe our streets have become. The everyday climate of danger has taken root, not least because of the lack of Garda presence on the ground. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had serious incidents that have added to people's feeling of danger and fear. The horrific knife attacks in Stoneybatter last Sunday week, in which 3 people were injured, left the community reeling. Then on Saturday, a man was fatally stabbed on South Ann Street in the aftermath of a public order incident. Adding to public concern is that those arrested for these attacks had been on bail for other serious offences. The man arrested for the attacks in Stoneybatter was facing charges in relation to a drug seizure, while 2 of the men arrested in connection with the fatal stabbing on Saturday had been on bail for other serious offences. And this isn't the first time that this issue has arisen. The Taoiseach is aware, I'm sure, of a number of high-profile, serious cases where the perpetrator had been on bail for other offences. So people are now asking why it is that so many serious crimes are being committed by people who've been released on bail. They're asking if our bail laws are adequate and if they're being properly enforced. People are also asking how it is that individuals who have been involved with serious crime in other countries are able to be here in Ireland. There is a real sense that public safety, the right of every person to go about their lives without fear, has been undermined by neglect and the failure of government to respond to reality on the ground. Knife crime, the carrying of knives, now presents a clear and present danger to the public. Minister O'Callaghan has stated that parts of Dublin are unsafe, but he has failed to specify which parts. The reality is that we have had years of failure and to Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil on crime prevention, on community safety, on rehabilitation. Níl mór den rialtas plán a legan amach chun bailíocha clia dhéanamh níos sábháilte, de gach duine a bhfuil cónaí orthu sa chathair, atá ag obair ansa, nó a hagan ar cuairt. So, Taoiseach, we need more Gardaí on our streets, more investment in community, in youth services, in youth diversion programmes, in rehabilitation, in our probation services, and we need to reform our bail laws, and that needs to be done urgently. We need a response to knife crime, to the carrying of knives, which is now endemic. The price of government failure in all of these areas has been high, too high for too many. So I want to ask you, Taoiseach, what is your response now as government to this lack of safety? What will you do in particular to make Dublin safe again? Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach, to respond.
Well, Maraga Ufasa Garfade, I made a talk to Tarlu near wine Stony Batter, Akkiritna de Shachtana, Bolam Chobron, a Yenev, Le Clown, Guam Babatunda, a 4 boss, agus an duine a bhí gortathe maríon lei sin. Níl sé sáú gan áras in éair, tá pláinig an rialtas, agus tá pláinig an airad dilí agus cuirte má Callaghan, an méid gardú atá, a bhéadú agus a dhéanamh níos láidre, dlithe eile a thuirtaisteach, agus beag níos mó gardaí ar na sráideanna san ámatá le teacht. Agus tá na hifricha ag méadú, níl éon áras faoi sin. Agus olt gan scéile, nach bhfuil daoine anán dul ag obair nó ag dul timpeall na sráideanna gan an bhfuil seo agus gan bheith an dain sé arán go méid gúnsaí ann agus is uafása gur fada. And I thank the Deputy for raising this important issue with me. My thoughts are with the deceased man, Guam Babatunda, and his family and his friends. And we also think of the other victims. We think of the victims also of the attack in Stony Batter, which was an appalling attack on people going about their daily lives, leaving their homes or walking just along the streets. And one has to condemn the level of violence involved. We must be very clear and absolutely intolerant of people carrying knives in their possession as they go out for a night's recreation. This is a growing phenomenon, and it is reprehensible, and it's putting the lives of people in danger. And so there's a wider societal piece that we need to focus on in terms of all of the factors that give rise to the level of violence that we're experiencing and the level of violence that individuals are getting involved in. You raise a valid question in terms of the bail laws. It's clear to me that people should not be granted bail if there's a risk of them committing a serious crime or offence. The bail laws have been comprehensively strengthened in recent years by a series of acts in 2007, 2015, and then we further acts in 2024 in terms of increased penalties for the Court Civil Law, Criminal Law Superannuation. 224 increases the penalties for several knife-related weapons under the Firearms and Offensive Weapons Act of 1990. And that includes an increase from 5 to 7 years in the maximum sentence for the offences of possession of a knife, trespassing with a knife, and producing a knife to unlawfully intimidate another. In respect of our bail laws, the decision to grant bail in a particular case, as you know, is solely a matter for the judge. And there's various then guidelines that the court has to have regard to, particularly any persistent serious offending by an applicant, and in specific circumstances, the nature and likelihood of any danger to a person or to the community arising from the granting of bail. But I do accept that we have to keep the bail laws under constant review in terms of both the constitutional rights of individuals, but also the rights of citizens and of victims and potential victims from people who are committing crime on bail. And that is something that the government will continue to assess. If we can make it tighter, we will. Obviously in a way that will be constitutionally allowable. But
Thank you,
the bottom line is there is no tolerance on the government side in respect of these crimes.
Thank you.
And they're reprehensible and should be condemned.
Deputy.
Well, eintiam lata híseach a sulc an scéile gan doubt. A céin plan atá ag an rialtas is soléir nach bhfuil an plan ceart agwibh. You know, dithering Taoiseach in the face of all of this is not a sufficient response from the government. I could write a lengthy thesis on the underlying causes of crime, the poverty, the lack of investment, the lack of opportunity. We could all do that. But we're facing a situation now where in Dublin in particular, but elsewhere also, people simply do not feel safe. And you say that there's zero tolerance to knife crime. Well, tell that to people on the street. The fact is that knife crime and the carrying of knives is now endemic. I'm asking you, what are you going to do about this? I don't think we can afford a laissez-faire approach in respect of the granting of bail. I know it's at the discretion of the judge, but if the guidelines are clearly failing, if they are inadequate, and where you have serial offenders out on bail offending again, surely to God, government needs to take a stand on that.
Thank you,
There's no laissez-faire. We have a robust legal framework to deal with knife crime. In September, as I said, we increased the maximum penalty. There is a proactive policing operations in terms of seizing knives, and there's been an increase in the number of knives being seized each year, and that will continue, that proactivity. And again, we have to support the Gardaí. We have to give more resources. There's good CCTV of the violent disorder in South Ann Street, for example. But our Garda force should be able to use facial recognition technology. That was opposed in the last Oireachtas. I hope when that legislation, the opposition will support Minister O'Callaghan when we bring legislation of that type forward, and other legislation designed to strengthen the Gardaí on the front line, particularly the body-worn cameras and so on. There's proof of concept phases on the way at the moment in Dublin, Waterford and Limerick. We want to roll these out to all Gardaí on the front line. But there hasn't always been a welcome for such measures in this House,
Thank you,
if the
Taoiseach.
truth be told. But there will be
Taoiseach.
total proactivity.
Thank you.
Numbers have increased by
Taoiseach.
40%
Now we move to Deputy
in Dublin
Ivana
metropolitan
Bacik of the
area
Labour
over the
Party.
last
Deputy Bacik.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.